you ever see a freaky goblin leering at you from outside the window of the room you inhabit? No? Well, I am, at this very moment. It's creepy. Yes, pushed up against the glass and leering. It's disturbing how it's smudging the clean glass. That's work for me later. Oh, wait, I see a UFO parked in the field beyond. It's a ruse. Those gray aliens will do anything for some time in the back alley. Hold on. Got him. He'll be on a slab in Area 51 by morning. His name? Maurice Morissette. No, that's his real name, XJ7. Oh, thank you, XJ7. You've just destroyed the intro to this case. You really what? You really need to just shut up and listen. Location, Edison, New Jersey, USA. Date, February 2021. Maurice, if only we knew ya. He was a typical fellow with problems plentiful, painful, and protracted. Yes, XJ7. He was a hopelessly horny romantic with desire for a mate so perfect that he wanted the complete package, as they say. No, this is not a story of gay love. This man wanted the woman he envisioned he was destined to have and hold forever. However, time wasn't being kind. Maurice Morissette was going toward his mid-40s like a drunk rushes into a brewery on free sample days. Existence itself was getting tedious for a man with so much desire, and a life tailor-made to breed a large, fun, and fabulous family with a fertile female. He worked in medical sciences and had experience and education in just about everything under the sun concerning biology and experimental procedures. It was his job. Despite all the academics and monetary blessings, he could never get it right with the ladies. So that is where this case file begins. Maurice, you see, had plenty of experience, and he wasn't some kind of one-time loser or unfortunate slob, a tatterdemalion fedora lord with ideas above his level of play. No. Maurice had it all, so to speak, and he had it all, so to speak. The problem was that he had bits of what he wanted in many women. Across his ample path plodded a parade of pretty petunias and plain Pams, and yet none were quite right. Pretty petunias often stank, while plain Pams were pedestrian on the surface, yet purely provocative in private. Oh, the typical story! Who hasn't been there? Except you, XJ7. You really must get out more. One night, during the early COVID lockdowns, manly Maurice made a magnificent list of women he had known and still yearned for, in part, and he attributed to them the parts that he still craved. Oh, yes, it was a chopping list, soon to be. Inside this maniacal medical madman was a devious desire to use his very knowledge and skill to combine these women into what he would lose himself within and never want to let go. Due to the pandemic, he knew it was almost certain that these women, like everyone else, would be isolated. Easy pickings for a modern Frankenstein. And when the pieces would be put together, Maurice would have the pieces of his own life sewn up. His heart, his broken and betrayed heart, would somehow make sense to his mind, and he could satisfy all his most energetic chakra, so to speak, and he'd be a little baby-making badass. Oh, serious, XJ7. I agree. Too many think with their crotches these days and can't cope with common discontent. Everyone thinks they can game the system, as it were. Anyway, Maurice's assumptions were astute. He was able to stalk his lost ladies and pinpoint when they would be most isolated for him to pluck from their insulated lifestyles and absconded, murdered, to become parts in his biological crusade for perfection incarnate. He had few scruples, this Maurice Morissette fellow, and he knew that what he privately toiled toward and desperately desired might have become a mere lifeless mess of organs and skin and sinew, to be heaved into the garbage with all the pieces he had left behind. He didn't care. Life was his, and he wasn't going out without a stab at utter lunacy. And so he went out, with a repeated stabbing of lunacy, into the night, alone and wanting. First, there was Linda, the woman with a most sexually fabulous head of hair. Next was Betty, with the perfect face. Then Monica, with a long, lean torso. Jill provided the most amazing sexual organs. Tina had breasts to die for. Alexandria lost her hands, gentle, petite, and feminine, without blemish. And the seventh was the woman with a mind and personality so pure and alluring that Maurice had to make her the controlling factor in all of it. Her hideous body was thrown to the wolves. Actually, that's true, almost. You see, all the remains of these women were put through the dog food factory near his house. He had an agreement, well bribed, naturally, with the owner. Thus no one would ever discover his sinful and gruesome endeavors. As long as he could Stockholm his seventh girl's will to be copacetic to his ultimate goals, Maurice would be free and clear, living in luxurious love and lasciviousness. Amazingly, although not altogether shocking in this day and age, he wooed his last lass and would interject the idea of remaking her entire body to be a goddess in the flesh. And she agreed to a whole brain implant. It was insane. Home run in Maurice's case. Foul balls for the female fatalities left behind. And thus in early 2021, Maurice and his beloved, but goblin-esque Desiree, worked together like some kind of modern Frankenstein and Igor. All the surgery was carried out in his basement theater. Parts stitched together and kept lively via pumps and bladders and electronic measuring and medicating until it was time to open up the predisposed Desiree and plop her cerebrum in the final concoction, lifeless before Morissette on a stainless steel slab. It would be a mind-numbing surgical operation, taking more than 48 hours to finalize. All that time, the man toiled at precisely cutting away Desiree's flesh, transferring and mending, then getting life support running and allowing the brain to effortlessly control the body. And yet in the end, after those 2 sleepless days, it was a success! Maurice collapsed back into an easy chair after standing over the prone body of his soon-to-be perfect wife. All of the pieces of these women were combined in utter harmony, healing, functioning, and orchestrated by the unconscious mind of Desiree. he would allow her to rest, sedated, to avoid feeling the pain of humanity torn so thoroughly asunder, and then repatriated so precisely, but yet savagely, into a patchwork paramour of paragon perfection. This, Maurice comforted himself into somnambulance, was his crowning achievement, where he made his life, and he would be free to achieve epiphany as a man above the standing and status of all others. And he'd have a lot of rumpy-pumpy with complete abandon, naturally. What a finicky perv! So were the ways of men. Anyway, it took a couple of days of rest before Maurice would feel able to face reality. At first, it felt like he awoke into a nightmare after a drunken debacle. He was flush with regret and remorse. He felt a fool for giving into his doolally plans. What was he thinking, he thought? The woman before him, sleeping deep and sound, healing slowly, was a pincushion of slices and sutures, blood and thread. And yet, when he saw what she could become, he was randy as hell and happier than a horny half-pint on the internet. Over 2 weeks, he would tend to his woman, still unconscious. The wounds slowly healed to nothing more than scarlet lines across pale flesh. Maurice began to resuscitate his beloved, and found she was able to attain rational consciousness and communicate adequately while under semi-sedative. He'd coo and assure her of a better future once he would fully revive her. And so it went for several more weeks, as the pastiche partner lay in a coma. Maurice would bathe her, tend her, and make sure she was attentively pampered until the moment of complete revival. And lo, it was there, that day, a propitious day in late February, 2021. He could have heard the angels sung. Life's hand was against him, and yet he had won. Maurice tilted the gurney upward and intravenously fed into his prize a reviving serum. Slowly, her eyes flittered into awareness. Slowly, sleepily. She was sore, but she could move. A full-length mirror was rolled before her naked form. Desiree smiled awkwardly, then broadly, triumphantly. She was beautiful! Maurice cried like a little girl. It was truly touching. Aside from remembering all the women that died for this monstrous moment in medical history. Mouth opened as her hands pawed her face and chest. Desiree began to laugh lightly, sighing and emitting squeals of exhilaration. She hesitantly walked forward, toward her reflection, delighting in the delicacy of sight. The sight of her magnificent new form, and then a final sigh of sultry satisfaction. Before a look of anguish set in on the erstwhile face of the beauteous Betty, Desiree's countenance beheld a revolving set of emotions swiveling through discontent, anger, confusion, contempt, sorrow, insanity, as Maurice watched in heart-sinking helplessness. From his woman's mouth were forming foul and profane words, heightening intensity until only one was repeated ever louder. "Bitch!" Desiree was screaming. Soon it became, "Bitches, all of you! Can you hear them?" Desiree asked confirmation from her man, turning to face him. "Can't you hear the voices?" Maurice shook his head, negative. "These bitches Desiree screamed, turning back to the mirror.
This is my body now! Mine! Bitches! Go away!
The woman looked to her hands as if the hands of a stranger rising before her. Those same hands grabbing at her lush hair, then breasts, then face and groin, ripping, clawing.
Stop it!
Screamed Desiree.
You're bitches! Die!
Before the agog Maurice was his project, his creation made of others' patient lives, bellowing in terror and fury, then distending slowly. Desiree's hands spreading, arms wide, legs separating, crotch and scalp writhing, head wiggling about on her shoulders. The dull scarlet lines of sutures became neon lavender and emitted an awfully unnatural light. The trim body bloated slowly, skin straining to contain something unforeseen within this female form.
My heart!
Desiree screamed.
My vagina, my face, my hands! Get out, you f***ing bitches! Get out, I hate you!
In a micro moment, an explosion. This was no mere mortal explosion, nor something from a silly movie. This was an incomprehensible and metaphysical explosion, bled into the material tapestry which our lives weave on this fertile plane. It was a juggernaut force of some other dimension unseen. Everything was atomized, including Maurice, his basement and everything within it. The force was so powerful, the cellar of his dwelling becoming not unlike a cannon, pushing the blasting force upward, outward, in a single direction, skyward. It turned the home into splinters and shards, particles and pebbles, to rain down across Edison, New Jersey. A few as far off as central Manhattan that day said they actually felt some stray detritus hit their reddened cheeks and make them query whence from this debris came. Nothing for forensics remained. Only questions. Within Maurice, a mere second before the end arrived, looking at his failed phenom, he wondered about the power of the inner essence of womankind. Could this be what his self-serving folly never comprehended? Could his hubris have allowed him to overlook the true nature of his focus within this world? Could women be as evil as he was? It's a shame. So much true genius, yet lacking insight and basic understanding of anything outside the ordinary and mechanical. You see, Maurice Morissette forever forgot that while many women would prefer to have the traits of one perfect woman, no woman would like to be many other women for the sake of a man. Or anyone, really. Ultimately, to sum it up with pithy and precision, you can't shove 7 crazy cats into a slim and attractive bag and not expect fur to fly.
Like and subscribe before I die. And ring the little bell or you will surely go to hell.
Oh, we're telling spooky stories. This is not a spooky story. Oh, there's no way on the top I can say.
Depends how you look at it. It is kind of spooky.
I guess so.
Wait, that's it? That's the end of the story?